Welcome back to the Pro Body Lifestyle Podcast. I am your host, Janusz, and today it's a solo episode. We're going to be talking about my favorite topic, which is how to make fat loss easy. So today's episode title is Fat Loss Made Simple. And this is honestly my favorite topic to talk about with a lot of my clients, and it's where I want a lot of my clients to get to. And it's because fat loss is hard. It's not because it's hard to comprehend or understand. I think a lot of people understand how to lose fat, but it's hard because in practice, following and adhering to meal plans and to diets is the hard part. And so that's why this is such a topic that I am so passionate about, because it's something that is super needed. You know, in our population today, most people are overweight, and it's an issue that's coming on because it brings on so many different lifestyle diseases. And it's one of those things where if you just learn a few tools about how to make fat loss easy, then it's actually a very easy process once you understand. So today I wanted to take you through my dieting protocol that I use personally and that I teach my clients to be able to maintain having a six-pack essentially 24/7 year-round, which a lot of people will tell you is impossible to do. It's not impossible to do, it's just hard to do, but it's only hard because most people don't have the right tools and understanding to be able to implement it. So I'm going to take you through that today. Now, I thought I'd start first with just talking briefly about how fat loss is achieved. So you probably already know that fat loss is achieved through creating what is called a calorie deficit. Now, a calorie deficit essentially means that you're not eating enough energy to sustain your body, so then your body has to use up the stored energy, which is your body fat. So if we break it down simply, you've probably heard that you have a metabolism. Now, metabolism is like a fancy sciencey word, essentially just describing how much energy it costs to run your body. So your metabolism is just a set number telling you how much energy it costs to run your body. So for example, if you have a fast metabolism, and let's say it was 3,000 calories, which is your metabolism, that means it costs your body around 3,000 calories per day, which is just a unit of energy, to maintain your body mass. If you have a slower metabolism, potentially you have less muscle, maybe you're a smaller human, then it means that you have less energy needed to run your body on a day-to-day basis, which is why you might have a slightly slower metabolism. So the biggest thing you can do if you want to increase your metabolism is be more active, because the more exercise you do, the more active you are, or the more muscle you start to put on. Then it means that now, because you're physically bigger, because you have more muscle mass, it means it's now going to cost more energy, or you're going to have a higher metabolism need to run your body. Okay, so your metabolism is how much energy it costs to run your body. Now, the way that fat gets stored, right, if you don't want body fat, essentially what happens is when you have that metabolism, and if we're using the example of 3,000 calories, if you're eating more calories than your body needs on a day-to-day basis, which is a good thing, let's pretend you're a good hunter back in the day, you're able to find a good mammoth to kill, you kill the mammoth, you've got heaps of food, well then it's a good thing. Your body needs 3,000 calories to run every day, but you've got excess, you've got extra calories coming in. So what happens is if you're eating 3,500 or 4,000 calories, which is above, that's called a calorie surplus. It's a good thing. Your body's like, okay, well, you know what? Instead of just wasting the extra calories that are coming in, why don't I put them into some storage so then I've got a saving account for later? And so then that's essentially where your body will then put the excess, the calorie surplus, away for storage, so that if you have a day, for example, where you're hunting and you're out in there trying to survive back in the day and you can't find any animals to kill, so you can only just get some vegetation and whatnot, well then what's happening is your body still needs your metabolism amount of calories to live today. So you still need 3,000 in this example. But if I can't find 3,000 calories worth of food, it still costs that much to keep me alive. Then lucky, let's say if I could only find 1,500 calories worth of food, then lucky I've got my body fat, which is a saving account, to use that stored energy to be able to operate my body. So essentially, just to summarize, your metabolism is the cost of energy to keep you alive. You gain body fat by eating more energy, more food than you need, and your body stores the excess in savings accounts, which again is a great thing. We just don't like the look of the body fat. And the way we lose the body fat is the opposite. So it's creating that calorie deficit, meaning we're deficient in calories for the day. So we're underneath our metabolism in terms of the calories that we're eating, which then gives our body an opportunity to now have to dip into our savings account to then use that stored body fat. So that's essentially how body fat is gained and how body fat is lost, by creating that calorie surplus, eating above your metabolism, or creating that calorie deficit when you're eating underneath your metabolism. So if that's how we lose and gain fat, why are so many people overweight? Well, when you look at the food that we're eating today, there's just so many calories in all the foods that we're eating today. And it's not always obvious about the size of foods. Like sometimes people tell me, oh, but I barely eat food. Like I don't know where the body fat's coming from. And it's because the value is not kind of intuitive to know how much value is in food, which is why we love to teach our clients to track calories, because then it allows you to see what the value is inside of foods. So if you look at my wedding ring, for example, it's tiny. The wedding ring, it's not that big, but a ring has a lot of dollar value to it because it's worth a lot. And so with food, it's the exact same thing, where it's not always obvious that something is a big food and therefore it's going to have a lot of calories, because then there's some types of foods like fats that are very small that are still healthy. Like if you're looking at nuts, like they're a very high fat content food, which means they're very calorie dense, even though they're not very big in terms of the size of the foods. So that's why tracking calories is such a great tool to be able to figure out how many calories you're intaking. So now when we look at the types of diets that are out there, all diets need to work by creating that calorie deficit to give us that opportunity to use the stored body fat, right? So now what we need to look at is, okay, there's 4 main types of dieting methods out there, and I'll quickly go over them to talk about the positive and the negatives of each of them. And then I'll end with my favorite one, which is flexible meal dieting, and I'll teach you how I do that to be able to maintain a lean physique year round. So the first way that a lot of people like to try and create this calorie deficit is by cutting out an entire meal group. So they might just like cut out all carbs and don't eat any carbs. Or maybe they'll cut out all fats and follow a low fat diet and they won't eat any fatty foods. Or maybe they'll try cut out sugar and just cut out all sugary foods. Or maybe they'll go vegetarian or vegan and cut out all meats or anything like that. And so the positive about these types of dieting methods is that they're easy to follow because they're simple rules. But the negative is that essentially you're just guessing. Like you're not really tracking how many calories are coming in or out. So you're just hoping and crossing your fingers. You're running a hope plan, hoping that it's putting you into a calorie deficit so that you can get the results you're looking for. The other negative is that it's super restrictive. You also don't learn anything about your foods because you're just trying to do an all or nothing approach. And it's just quite simply not sustainable, because if you lose weight doing that, which is what a lot of people can do, they obviously rebound at the end of it because it's not the way they're going to eat for the rest of their lives. Like eventually they're going to want to add carbs back in, or eventually they're going to want to add meat back in. So it's just not a very sustainable way of dieting. So that's the first method, is cutting out entire meal groups. The second method you can follow is following a meal plan. And so this is where the positive is, okay, now it's a little bit more balanced, where it's not just cutting out an entire meal group. Hopefully you have the meal plan created by a dietitian or someone who knows what they're doing so that it actually gets results. So the positive is that if you eat the meals that are on the meal plan, then you're going to get results. You're going to lose fat. That's great. The negative is you have to follow the meal plan, obviously. So there's not much flexibility and there's not many different food options you can do. So if you don't like the meal plan or you get bored of the meal plan, then that's going to be the negatives there. The other thing is that it's just not as flexible as other methods of dieting that I'll go through. It's not as sustainable, again, because you're only following what's on the meal plan. So it's very easy to just follow it, but then it's not sustainable for long-term results. And for long-term results, you don't really learn anything by just following a meal plan, because you're just going to a dietitian, you're getting a meal plan handed to you, you're following it, it works, that's great, but then you don't know what next. So it's great and it can work for some people, but I find that for my clients, it's not what I want to teach them how to get long-term results. Now, the next one down from meal plans is flexible dieting. So this is where you start tracking your macros, you start tracking your calories, and you start using a food tracker app. So we've got a food tracker built into our coaching app, and that's where you start scanning and tracking what your foods you're eating to be able to have specific macro targets to aim for. So you might get a calorie number that you're trying to target, and as long as you eat less calories than that calorie number, you're going to be losing fat. So the positive of this type of dieting method is that you have a lot more variation, because you can essentially eat any foods that you want as long as it's within or less than your calorie targets that you're given. It allows you to have more sustainability because you can obviously change your foods that you're eating. So if you get bored of something, you can find another breakfast or another lunch or another dinner option as long as it fits those calories. So it's very flexible there. And there's the most education from this method of dieting because you do start to learn about your foods as you track them. The only negative, though, if you've ever tried to track your calories, is that you have to track your calories. So some people can find that it is inconvenient to pull your phone out and have to track calories all the time. And that's why it's something that I don't do all the time. And I'm able to maintain a six-pack and a lean physique all the time, year round, okay? So it's a great tool. It's a great way of learning about foods, but it's just not a very sustainable method because you do have to pull out your phone all the time to track your foods. Now, the last one that I like to follow is called a flexible meal plan. And so what this does is it creates the flexibility of counting your calories with the structure of having a meal plan, so you can have the best of both worlds. So you can have the structure of the meal plan where you can just create your meal plan, and then you know that if you eat those meals, you're just going to start to get the results. But then you have the flexibility of being able to adjust that meal plan, like when you're tracking your calories, to be able to adjust the foods that you're eating while still getting the results. It's really cool. One of my clients, when I was teaching her about tracking her calories, she sat down and was like, okay, so you're telling me that as long as I'm eating less than my metabolism, like if I'm eating in that calorie deficit, even if I'm eating ice cream, if I'm eating sugar, I will still lose fat? And I said, yes, you will. And so she's like, okay, be careful because I'm going to hold you to this. And so in a 12-week period, she lost 14 kilos while eating ice cream every single day by tracking her calories, because what she did was she figured out, okay, as long as I'm eating, I think for her, the target that we gave her was 1,600 calories. So for her, she was like, okay, as long as I'm eating less than 1,600 calories worth of food, then if I fit my ice cream in, which for her, I think she did like a paddle pop, which might be like 120 calories. So she had a paddle pop every single day while still hitting 1,600 or less calories for her body. That's what we worked out to be. And she was able to lose 14 kilos over that 12-week period. So that's the power of doing flexible dieting and being able to track your calories. It allows you way more variation to be able to lose fat while you're still eating pizza, while you're still having alcohol, while you're still having sugary foods, as long as you're eating within the calorie thresholds. But like I said, the disadvantage is that you have to track your calories. So for her, we then wanted to create more sustainability, more of a long-term approach. And that's where we shifted from flexible dieting, where she's having to track her calories all the time, to doing a flexible meal plan. So she has that rigidity and structure, but still the flexibility of being able to eat the meals that she wanted. So essentially what you do with a flexible meal plan is you get your calorie targets from a coach, or you get your calorie targets from the internet, you figure out how to get it. And then what you're doing then is you're creating a structured template that fits your diet. So for example, if we're trying to follow like a 2,000 calorie diet, you might be like, okay, well, I've got 2,000 calories. That's what I'm going to be having every single day. Then you're going to figure out your template. Do you want to have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks? So if you want to have all 4 of those categories, you might divide it equally and have 500 calories per category. So 500 for breakfast, 500 for lunch, 500 for dinner, 500 for snacks. And so then that means the total for those days is going to be 2,000 calories, which hits the diet. So then what you do is you figure out, okay, once I found the structure that I like, and if you don't like that structure, for example, me, I don't personally like to have breakfast because I'm in here coaching clients. So what I do is I take 250 calories from my breakfast and just have coffee in the morning. And then I add that extra 250 calories to my dinner. So instead of having a 500 calorie dinner, I bump that up to 750 because I find that template suits me. So you get your calorie number and you divide that by the number of meals that you personally want to have throughout the day, whether that's 6 meals a day, whether it's 7 meals a day, whether it's 3 meals a day, 1 meal a day if you really wanted to. And as long as you don't go over your calorie number, you're going to be losing the body fat. So that's the first thing. Then what you do is once you've found the structure that fits you and you've figured out, how you want to distribute those calories throughout the day. So for me, I had 250 for breakfast, which was my coffee. Then I had lunch, which was 500 calories. I had dinner, which was 750 calories, which I took that extra 250 from breakfast and put that there. And then I had 500 calories worth of snacks spread throughout the day. So that's 2,000 calories. So now the next step I need to do is, now that I've got my structure, I need to find 2 to 3 meal options that work for each of these meals. So then you can use, like in our app, we've got our database of foods that people can use. If you don't have that, you can go on Instagram or you can use ChatGPT or something. Just search low calorie, high protein breakfast ideas. Pick 2 to 3 of them that you might want to make. Do the same for lunch, do the same for dinner, do the same for your snacks. And then what you do now is, now you've got 2 to 3 options for each of those meals that you just track that meal once. So you now get out your phone, you track that meal, you track that day once. You make sure that it's getting you results, you make sure that it's working. And if you liked that meal, then what you can do in our app is you can press save it as a favorite. So now you're saving a database of your favorite recipes that you know once you've made them once, you've checked that the calories are good, you technically don't need to track them anymore because you know that if you keep repeating any of those 3 options for breakfast, they're going to fit your calories. Any 3 options for lunch, they're going to fit your calories. Any 3 for dinner, any 3 for snacks. You know that those days, if you interchange any of those pieces, are all going to work towards keeping you lean or getting you lean if you've got a lot of body fat that you're trying to lose. Now, inevitably, of course, you're going to get bored of the same meals. So then that's when you go on Google again, you go on ChatGPT, and you track another meal to find a new breakfast idea that's low calorie, hits your target meal plan, and still has the right protein that you're looking for. And so then once you've done this, you start to build up a library of exercises, of meals that all fit your diet, that all keep you or get you lean, that all have the right protein to be able to build muscle mass. And then you know that, okay, now if I just interchange all of these meals, I can use them like puzzle pieces to build my meal plans every single day. And I no longer need to track my meals as long as I cook them and make them the same way. So we always encourage our clients to always track their meals anyway, because once you start saving them into your app, it's very easy at a tap of a button to just go copy and paste to today. And then you've just copy and pasted that meal. Or what a lot of our clients do is they set up their entire week, because what me and Mel do on the weekends is when we're trying to shop and figure out what we want to eat for the week, we open up our saved recipes so that we can see all of our breakfast, lunches, dinners, snack ideas there. And then if I haven't eaten something for a while, I'm like, oh, hey, Mel, we haven't made the Big Mac tacos. Let's make them this week. Let's do that. And so that's when I prep on my Sunday to be able to create my flexible meal plan for the week ahead. And then I just copy and paste those meals into the week. So my entire week is already tracked in seconds. And then of course, if I'm going through my day and I don't eat something or I change the plan, then you can just open up the app and quickly swipe and delete it and then copy and paste the different meal that you did eat for it. So you can see that flexible meal plans, it combines the ease of tracking of having a meal plan where you're just given a list of meals to eat and then you just eat them. Except that in this case, you get to select what meals suit your diet. So this is where I coach a lot of clients who are also from different backgrounds, like Indian. Now, our database, we don't have a lot of Indian recipes because I'm not Indian, surprise, surprise. But I'm still able to coach them and get them great results because I teach them this process of, hey, this is your calories and macros that I'm setting for you that you need to focus on hitting. Now you get to create your flexible meal plan using the foods that you want, incorporating alcohol if you want, incorporating sugary foods if you want. And as long as they fit the template and the calories and macros that I've given them, then they get essentially to learn how to create their own meal plans so they can develop this skill that will last them a lifetime. And again, once you create that database of recipes that work, that get you lean, that build muscle, then you no longer really need to track anymore, because as long as you keep eating those foods, then you're going to keep getting the same results. And the only time you need to change things is if you're not getting results. And that's where us as your coach, we might give you different calories or macros, or you might decide to change them as well yourself, like if you're not one of our clients. And that's a whole nother topic of how to set your calories and macros and how to change your calories and macros. But I'm hoping you guys are starting to see how flexible meal planning works and the simplicity of this approach, because you just simply get whatever your calorie and macro targets are, you divide them into the structure that you want to focus each day and each week. And then you just fill in your template however you want that fits your template. So you might be a tradie who likes to not have breakfast at all and just has a massive lunch, comes home, has some snacks, and then has a massive dinner. So let's say if you're using that 2,000 calorie example again, maybe you allocate 250 calories for, breakfast to give yourself calories for a coffee or a little, muesli bar or something like that. Then the rest of it, you now have, what have we used? 250. So you now have 1,750 calories to use for the rest of the day. So maybe you have a big lunch where you have 750 calories for lunch. And then if you don't have a snack when you come home and you just want to eat dinner, then you now have 1,000 calories left over to make a massive dinner with. So then that allows you to have a pizza and still be able to get the results, because you can see that it still fits your calorie template. So that's the main thing, is get your calorie targets, find the template structure that works for you. You can use a piece of paper just to write down the template, and then add up your template to make sure it didn't go over your calorie targets. With your protein target, I would suggest dividing it between your meals. So instead of trying to eat all of your protein at dinner, try and lay it out so that you've got it over all of your meals throughout the day, like 25 grams per meal or something like that. So again, it depends on what your protein target is you're aiming for. Usually we recommend aiming for a protein target of around a minimum of 2 grams of protein for every kilogram of your target body weight. So 2 times your target body weight in grams of protein is another way to say it. So if your target, like if you're over 100 kilos and you're trying to lose weight down to 80 kilos, well then your target body weight is 80 kilos. So your minimum protein target would be 2 times 80 equals 160. So your minimum target for protein per day is 160 grams of protein. So then you want to make sure that your meal plan is structured in a way that you're not going over your calorie target, so you're under your calories, but you're at least hitting the minimum protein target and you're above your protein target. And again, it's just trial and error. You just track your calories, and this is why you need to track them for a few days at least. So you track a day, and then you want to review your day. Don't just track it and finish, like review your day. Look at, okay, if I went over my calories and I didn't hit my targets, why? What meal put me over? Stop eating that meal and find a different meal that would fit a better place for it. Again, ChatGPT, Instagram, use our database, whatever you need to find a better meal, okay? If you are good with your calories, which means you're going to be losing the fat, because again, if you're not eating how much your body needs to maintain on a daily basis, which is your metabolism, if you're eating in that calorie deficit, you're going to be losing fat, even if you don't hit the protein target, because your body then needs to take from your fat stores to be able to run your body on that day-to-day basis. But if you're under your protein targets and you're like, oh man, I'm 20 grams under my protein target, why? Again, look at your diary. What meal was low in protein in your diary? Oh, okay, you know what? I'm having cereal for breakfast. It's only 10 grams of protein. Now I'm going to go to Google and be like, maybe I'll swap that out. Okay, low calorie, high protein breakfast ideas. Pick one, try it out. If it tastes like garbage, because some recipes do, then find another one. But pick one, find it, taste it, make sure it's good, and then save that as your favorite. Now, if you put that in your repertoire, now you should be hitting your protein targets. So most important thing is create your flexible meal plan, find 2 to 3 meals that hit that flexible meal plan, and then make sure that when you're tracking them, that it's hitting the calorie target or less, and you're at least hitting the protein target or more each day to facilitate your recovery and your muscle growth. So that's kind of it, guys. That's how I create flexible meal plans. That's how I teach my clients to create meal plans. And even when my clients are asking me, hey, can you just create a meal plan for me? This is literally the exact process that I'm using to create meal plans. Now, of course, there's a little bit more that goes into it to make sure you're getting the micronutrient demands, to make sure that you're getting the right vitamins and minerals, all those types of things, and fiber. You know, there's lots of things you can do to optimize your nutrition. But if we're just focusing on fat loss, then what matters the most for fat loss is creating that calorie deficit. Because again, your body needs to eat a certain amount of calories to maintain itself. And if you're eating less calories than your body needs per day, then your body has to dip into its savings account to run your body. And that's essentially what fat loss is fat is simply stored energy, stored calories that is used as a saving account to supplement your body when you're not eating enough food. And so this is why it doesn't matter what type of diet you follow to get here. It's all about the calories, because whether I'm eating carbs or fats, it really doesn't matter, because carbs and fats are both different types of energy fuels for the body. Carbs is like your faster burn energy. It's like rocket fuel to power high intensity exercise, whereas fats is a slower kind of burn fuel. It's kind of like oil, where you can put oil lamps and it burns for hours. So either one of them, if you're eating too many calories of carbs, then too many calories means you're going to store the extra fat because your body doesn't need it all today. And same thing, if I eat too many calories worth of if I eat too many calories worth of fat sources foods, then same thing. Even though it's a different type of energy source, too many calories means it stores the excess as fat, right? Now, if I'm eating in a calorie deficit, it doesn't matter whether it's a calorie deficit of carbs or fats, because both of them turn into stored energy anyway, okay? They're just different types of fuel sources. So one is a fast burn fuel source, which is your carbs, and then your fats is the slow burn fuel source. So just simplify your diet. If you're trying to lose weight, just keep things simple and just focus, number one, on creating that calorie deficit. Create your flexible meal plan, make sure it works for your structure, for your day, for your lifestyle, and then just focus on that. Number two, focus on your protein. That's going to help you feel fuller, and it's going to help you repair your muscles from your resistance training. And now resistance training, one of the reasons why it's so important is because the bigger you build your muscles, the more you build muscle, the more it raises your metabolism over time. Because again, if my muscles get bigger, if I get bigger as a human, it now costs more energy, more calories to run my body. Versus if I have a smaller body, then it's going to cost less energy to run my body. So it's the same when you look at engines. Like if you look at a truck engine, a truck uses a lot more petrol than a little motorbike does because it has a bigger engine. And so if you look at your muscle mass, that's why resistance training, strength training is so important, is because it builds your bone density, it builds your muscle mass, it does all of those things, which is cool, but most importantly, it raises your metabolism and it keeps your metabolism high as we start to age so that we can eat more calories and not gain body fat. So to summarize, guys, we need that calorie deficit to be able to use your body fat as you're using your saving account. To do that, you can track your calories, but if you want to make things easy for yourself, then start to create a flexible meal plan for yourself where you're creating 2 to 3 options for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks so that you can just eat those meals. And as long as you cook them the right way and you track them and you know that the quantities are all good, if you just keep eating them, you'll get results whether you track them or not, because you're now hitting the right calories and the right nutrition. And again, if you get bored of any of those meals, the flexibility of flexible meal planning is that you can now pull out your phone, find another meal that fits your diet, taste it. If it tastes great, save it as your favorites. And now you've got that forever where you no longer need to track. Like for me, for example, I don't track calories anymore. I do if I'm eating a new food and I have no idea what the calories or the macros are. I'm just curious and I just want to know how many calories is this, what's the protein content. But essentially, like me and Mel, we don't track calories anymore and we still maintain lean physiques year round because we know that, okay, if we just eat the meals that we have in our flexible meal plans that we've saved as favorites in our apps, then as long as we cook those meals and eat those, then we're going to be hitting the right targets for calories, macros, micronutrients, all of those things. And we're going to be very healthy. We're going to have lots of energy and we're ultimately going to be able to live a lean lifestyle without having body fat. And if I do find, we go to Europe and think those types of things where we do gain body fat, then we come back and we might dial in again by getting our phones out and starting to track again for a temporary period to make sure that the calories work. And again, tracking is very easy when you do this process because you only have to track every new meal once. Once you've tracked the meal once and it hits your calories and macros, then you save it as a favorite so you can just copy and paste it for all of the other days. And then now it's such a simple and easy way to track your calories, to be able to lose body fat and build muscle mass. So that's pretty much what I got for you today, guys. If you have any other questions about flexible meal planning or, fat loss and how to do it long term, like this is essentially what I do, but feel free to send me a message on Instagram. My name's, it's a very tough name. You can go into the description. But yeah, if you can go to Pro Body Lifestyle on Instagram, then that's our main one that both me and Mel use. Otherwise, if you go to mine, which I'll link below, Janusz Prochuk, then you'll be able to find mine and you'll be able to message me, send me any DMs and things through there. But yeah, if you want this process done for you, where it's just, you have a coach leading you through this step by step, then that's what we recommend for people to kick off this process. And that's where we do usually work with people for that first 12-week period where we dial all of this in for you. So we set the exact calories and macros that you need to hit. And most importantly, we don't just set them and forget them, but we adjust them over time based on progress and based on results to make sure that those calories and macros are continuing to help you hit your goals. And then we walk you through creating your flexible meal plans, and we walk you through even picking the meals that you might need for those meal plans if you need inspiration, because we have that whole database that Mela started to put together with all of our favorite meals. But like I said, if you're Indian background and you don't like our meals, then it still works for you. If you're from a different background and you might have like Asian cuisines, then same thing. It's the exact same process. It's you take your calorie and macro targets, you divide it into the structured meal plan that works for you, and then you just find the meals that hit that structure in whatever cuisine or taste that suit you. And this is how you essentially get results while still being able to eat the meals that you love. And this is what you need for long-term flexibility. And this is, once you learn this process, you've learned this for life. Like this is something that is worth investing into from a young age, because if you do this young and you learn this from a young age, number one, you're going to have so much time on your hands because meal prepping will become easy because you'll have this database of recipes that you can pick from, that you've created, that you like to be able to cook each week. Number two, you know that if you eat these meals, you're going to lose weight and you're going to build muscle. Or if you're already lean, you're going to maintain a lean physique. And then number three, it's just going to make life way easier because you don't have to think about everything so much. And you're not there trying to track every single calorie every single time because you have this database of amazing meals that you can just copy and paste any day you like. So that's what I got for you guys. If you do want to work with us, there's a link below in the description where you can apply to work for us. Just fill in the form, select which coach you prefer, if it's me or Mel. If you don't mind, there is a button to just say I don't mind. Just get me results. And I'll see you on the next episode. Hope you guys enjoyed. Go out there and live the Pro Body lifestyle.